What's up, guys? Welcome back to We All Gamble. This is episode number 2, NFL edition, week number 2 in the NFL, also known as Overreaction Week. What's up, Jake?
Honestly, big overreaction week coming up here. Week 1, obviously, everybody has their peaks and valleys. I can definitely say after the weekend that I had, the Sunday you were with me, it was a lot of peaks and valleys. We were down.
Coaster.
Yeah, we were down a lot of units, and then we ended up being up a couple units. But that's week 1 for you. Now we're into week 2, like you said, overreaction week. Very tough slate this week. I'm not too big of a fan of anything, but we'll get into that here. But how was your week 1?
It was good. The only really big mistake I made was trusting the Steelers to hang around. And obviously, you mentioned to me you didn't like that pick in general out the gate. And I don't know. I thought they would keep it tight. It wasn't even a money line or regular spread. I had the teaser. But other than that, Ravens, Bengals game under hit, Raiders. But like you said, it's kind of funny because these lines have been open. Week 1 lines are there for so long, right? They're there all summer. We start looking at them in the first, weeks before the week 1. But now, here we are recording this on a Tuesday. We got to get ready for week 2. You know what I mean? Like, whatever happened, you and I both, ended up coming out on top in week 1. But that's in the past. Nobody cares about the past anymore.
Yeah, memory of a goldfish, right? With week 1, there's so much anticipation built up. Like you said, there's so much time to look at the lines, evaluate, what's going on in preseason. Some people really think preseason is a dictator of how the season will go. Other people, not so much. So there's so many different philosophies and things that you could look at to go into that your mind's just kind of in a blender. But like you said, I think I was talking to you last night that, I didn't realize at the time for week 1, I gave out 15 picks, which is absolutely absurd. That's week 1 for you, though. It's Christmas Day. Everybody's excited. You love everything on the board. 53%. So went 8 for 15, which for 15 picks, I don't think's too bad. It's, it's not the best. If we shorten up the amount of picks that we took, I think we definitely could have had a better week. But this week, definitely a lot less picks. Not a huge fan of the slate this week, like I previously mentioned. But I don't know if you want to talk about anything that happened in week 1, or if you just want to dive right into it. I know from a gambling perspective, there was some lines that were way off. Obviously the Giants game was one where you were like, was shutout. I think the Packers, Bears, you told me go Pack go. I wasn't really
It's
listening.
hard for me, though. I told you from the get-go. People won't believe me because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I get it, though. I get it. I don't blame you for not really taking me seriously because I'm a fan of the team.
I don't think it was so much that either. I think the Packers just looked really good. I think Jordan Love surprised a lot of people, and I think I might have forgot just how good that defense was. They really kept Justin Fields under control there. The Bears' offensive line had nothing to offer the game. So I think there were some lines there that me and you both got caught on the either side of where we were like, oh, we really like that. And it was, I won't call it a trap line, but if it definitely felt like a trap line that Vegas knew something to entice you in to get you to bet it, and it just wasn't even close.
I think that there are a lot of slow starts. Like, I feel like people forget, like, even though the NFL has a pretty long preseason, the fact of the matter is, like, not all the main guys. NFL preseason is pretty much tryouts.
Yeah.
Or, like, for coaches to figure out who the guys, like, deep into the roster are going to be. Not as much the main guys in the team. So when I look at the week 1, like, we had a blast watching the games, had a pretty good setup and stuff like that. But I think we were all pretty underwhelmed from the first 25 minutes. You're trying to stay excited. Anything, no matter what happens, you're pumped. But I honestly thought it was a pretty underwhelming first half of a lot of the 2:00 games.
Yeah, the 2:00 games weren't very good, to be honest. I think there was a lot of blowouts, or there was just a lot of underperforming. My best bet was Ravens 9.5. That obviously hit, but the first half they were god awful. Second half they got a little bit better, but they still weren't good. I think to the Eagles game that looked like a blowout, and then all of a sudden that became a world beater at 5:25 our time. Seahawks game was really good. Raiders Broncos was a pretty good game as well. So the we'll call it the middle slate games. They definitely outperformed the 2:00 games.
And then the primetime games, I guess we might as well talk about it. We might as well talk about, there's Chiefs, Lions, then you talk about the blowout, shutout with the Cowboys and Giants, and then obviously overtime.
Yeah.
Jets and Bills, man, and Aaron Rodgers 4 plays and he's done for the year. It's tough, man.
Yeah, that sucks. I'm actually gutted. I wouldn't say I'm a Jets fan by any stretch of the imagination, but to see a guy that, had a change of scenery, contemplated retirement, was super excited to get back into football with the Jets. He seemed like he was really embracing the city. He was at, the US Open. He was doing a lot of we'll call it the city tour, where he was putting himself out there. Coming from a smaller market, he probably felt really great to have that, that national coverage. Obviously, if you're a football fan, Aaron Rodgers, who he is, what he means to the game. But for the average person to go to a market like New York, that just puts that much more exposure on you. And to see him go down like that really sucks. And it's, I think it's kind of a testament to the player he is. I won't say the person, because I know some people are for Aaron Rodgers as a person, other people not so much. But just the overwhelming outpour of this sucks across the NFL, across media, and across just friend groups. Like our group chat today, like that was the topic of conversation and how much that sucked. It was like watching like the kid that is like really good that's not on your team go down, and you're like, fuck, like obviously it benefits us, but like it still sucks to see you go down like that, especially at 40 years old, ruptured Achilles. Like I think he's coming back. Other people, think that this is the end of the road, that he's not going to want to put in that rehab and that time. But I'm hoping he comes back next year with a point to prove. And, the Jets fans who've suffered for so long get to experience what it's like to have Super Bowl aspirations that last longer than, 2 minutes and 30 seconds of a football game.
Yeah, and just especially with like how, I don't even know the word to describe it, like how intense that introduction was to the game, obviously being, the events they're remembering. But when I look at the injury, I share the same thoughts as you. I think it's coming back. Like, I feel like if it was in like week 6 or 7, I feel like it's almost more discouraging, because then you come back so late into the next year. It's week 1. You talked about it today to me. Like, they have the best doctors in the world. From what I heard on different radio stations today, like realistically, this surgery and this recovery seems to be getting better and better every year. The only thing is like everything that's been in the talk today is about the turf, right? Turf toe, turf versus grass. But I'll tell you what, like even before he got injured, he looked old, I thought, like when he was scrambling. That was only like 2 or 3 plays. I'm not trying to like dog the guy, but like I felt bad because everybody was asking me as a Packers fan, like, what do you think about the Jets? What do you think about Rodgers? And then anytime I would say like, oh, I'm not buying it, people would say like, you're just jealous because Rodgers left. Nobody would take me seriously. And then I was like, I don't know if he's going to play the full season. And now I kind of feel like an asshole because he gets injured in the first game. But from a perspective as far as the game is concerned, I feel like people just thought that game was going to be over completely. I know you cashed plus 10.5 live. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, it's still a team. Like, I know a quarterback is a quarterback, especially when it's a guy like Rodgers, but anybody that bets, like, should realize that the Jets defense isn't great because of Rodgers. You know what I mean? They don't have all those weapons because of Rodgers. There's still a great team. I feel like from a betting perspective, they're going to be undervalued now, big time. Like, if I'm actually higher betting wise now on the Jets than I was before.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I think it was you that put it in our group chat that I think it was one of the books was like, yeah, we have them rated down now closer to like the Raiders.
Yeah, 7th or 8th from the bottom.
7, 8 from the bottom, which I think is a little crazy. Zach, Wilson isn't the greatest QB in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but 7-win team last year. Obviously, they lost 6 in a row to miss out on the playoffs, but they were a pretty good team. They were 7-4. They had a chance. Things didn't go their way, but like you said, that defense is, I think there's 4, maybe 5 defenses in the NFL right now that are all world elite. Like, you could take any of them and you put, a middle of the pack quarterback with some weapons around and they're Super Bowl contenders. So I think the Jets obviously aren't going to be Super Bowl contenders, but I think they still have a chance for the wild card. I think, there's a slight overreaction, but in terms of betting, I think you're definitely going to get more favorable numbers. You're going to get some of these spreads where you're looking at it like, I don't think the Jets defense is going to, let them lose by, a touchdown or 10 points, right? Like you might see later on in the season, depending on how things go. But I'm definitely with you. I think now you're going to catch a lot more friendly lines with the Jets where you're not going to they're not going to be favored as much, and you're going to be able to catch some good spots on them.
For what it's worth, for everybody out there, all 3 primetime games go under. I'm mad at myself for not betting them. I said it literally going into the year. I'm going to bet the unders in primetime games. It happens every time. Underdogs on the money line and unders, I think, went 5 for 6. The only favorite, obviously, winning was Dallas. Is that right? Yeah, because Detroit was an underdog. Jets were underdog. Obviously, small dogs. But so you're 5-1 so far in week 1 if you bet straight up on the underdogs and the unders. That's nuts, man.
Yeah, it sucks that primetime games have kind of gone like this now. The prime times last year, I know especially for the Thursday nighters, it was like you were just betting the over last year on Thursday nighters to just hope to have a good game.
To cheer for points.
Yeah, to cheer for points.
But they know that.
Yeah, they definitely know that. And I think this year you're definitely, you're right. You're going to have to kind of pick your spots on the overs. You're going to have to definitely look at the teams that are playing, check the previous, weeks or weeks, depending on where we're at in the season. But, I fell victim to it. 2 out of the 3 games that I gave out for prime times, I gave out the over. I had the over in the Chiefs that, if Kadarius Toney isn't a bum, I think that cashes. That guy had 5 drops, drive, killer, bum. And then, obviously, the Cowboys game, if you would have told me the Cowboys had 40 points and the over was 46.5.
I know.
That the over wasn't going to cash, told you're absolutely crazy. So I think 2 fluky kind of games where things don't go your way, and then obviously the Jets and the Bills soared under. Josh Allen did no favors for the over in that game, but I didn't have the over, so I didn't really care. But overall, I think primetime, like you said, definitely gonna have to reevaluate just kind of blindly betting the over. But I think that's enough recap for week 1. I think we definitely both had our ups and downs. There was a lot of storylines through week 1. Like I've mentioned for week 2, I'm not a huge fan of the slate. There's a lot of games where I'm looking at spreads and I'm like, I don't know what side of the spread I want to be on. Over unders, I'm looking at them like, fuck, like you guys played like ass last week. Are you going to bounce back this week? I think there's a lot of uncertainty in week 2. I know there's definitely going to be some overreactions in terms of people betting, but I think there's more uncertainty in all the games on like what side and totals you're really going to be after.
100%. And I feel like I said, so for everybody out there, like we're recording this on a Tuesday, and like I don't have an opinion on every game right now. Like if you asked me to give an opinion on every single game, I wouldn't have a strong one. No. I usually don't anyway have a strong opinion on every game, but so the new format we're going to do is we're each going to pick 3 games and discuss those, give out some quick picks, and then we're going to talk about all 3 primetime, Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. Be anything side totals, even if you have some strong props, but props, I like the props. I know you like them too. They're not really out till later in the week for every game besides Thursdays, but it'll mostly be sides and totals. But I hear you, man. Like I'm trying to figure them out, like these games, and I probably won't have some of my favorite ones till Thursday or Friday besides the ones I have right now. Like I don't have a ton, but let's start things off. We talk about these primetime games and the unders. I like points in the Eagles-Vikings. What about you?
Me too, buddy. We both just said we're not taking prime time on overs
I'm right
anymore.
Back at it.
I'm in. I'm all bought in. Over 48 I have for the Vikings-Eagles. That's obviously even money, minus 110 or 1.85 or whatever it is for decimals. I use American odds, so I don't really translate those into decimals too much. But I think the Eagles had a lackluster performance last week. Obviously, the Patriots, I think I, again, forgot how good their defensive line was. Judon, I think, definitely disrupted things for us last week. But the Vikings defense, we all know, terrible. Secondary, terrible. Run defense, terrible. So I think there's definitely some points to be had in that game. I think that Jalen Hurts almost cost us the game a couple times. He didn't play very well. So I think the Eagles are going to come out, try to have a point to prove against the Vikings on the road. Obviously, it's tough to start 2 games in a row on the road in New England and then in Minnesota. But I think equally, Minnesota had a very disappointing offensive game too, right? I think Kirk really wasn't jiving too well like we normally are used to. He was gunslinging, but not very well. I don't think Madison really was too involved in the run game. The only real bright spot that they had, I think, was Justin Jefferson obviously hit his over on yards, which I think is going to be a given every week until that hits triple digits. And then Jordan Addison caught a touchdown. So it looks like they have their replacement for Thielen. So I think this game could definitely soar over. The only thing I'm worried about is if the Eagles defense is a little pissed off that they gave up 20 points to Mac Jones. Like, Mac had some really good drives in that game. I think Mac looked way better than I originally thought he was going to look coming into the season. So again, I could be overreacting. It's one game, but I think Bill O'Brien definitely had that offense rolling, and it goes to show that maybe I underestimated the losses that we had on defense. That I thought, we had some rookies coming in, we had some guys that were going to be plug and play, and that defense was just gonna pick up where it left off.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Vikings coming in. They're decent-sized favorites. They lose outright. And then the Eagles' favorites, they win straight up, lose against the spread. And I think I don't want to give too much credit to the Buccaneers because I don't think it's too big of a statement to say the Patriots have a better defense than the Bucs. But I will say that I think it's kind of a similar scenario for both teams, like two offensively very talented teams coming off games against defensive-minded opponents. Like the Buccaneers know their offense looked okay, and like Baker Mayfield did a good job, I thought. Like, which is usually I'm hating on the guy, but I feel like this is the script, and I know that the Eagles have a decent defense, but the Vikings have a god awful defense. It's not going to get any better. It didn't get better in the offseason, and pretty much the Buccaneers came in saying if we can get some points early and we can play good defense, they can beat them. But I look at the fact that the Patriots outgained the Eagles. Like, I thought that was kind of crazy, and some of the plays that Mac Jones made, maybe that was because they were up early. And then, like you said, they kind of slipped back into the game. They had a chance to win the game, really.
Yeah.
You were sweating it out. We don't want to relive that.
Yeah, that was the worst for those watching. I won't go into numbers because you guys don't need to know my bankroll situation. But basically, I was down fucking big. Down big on Bet365. I made a same game parlay. I had the Eagles money line parlayed with Devontae Smith anytime touchdown score. That was plus 300. On Bet365, for those who don't know, I'm going to give them a plug because I think this is really cool that this sportsbook does this. If at any point throughout the game your team on the money line gets up by 17 points, it's an automatic winner. It doesn't matter when it happens.
Early cash out.
It's great. So obviously the Eagles go up 16-0. Me, Andrew, all the boys are watching together. We're having a barbecue. I'm celebrating. I'm back. I made, X amount on top of what I've already lost. So I made some money back, I thought. And then Jake Elliott missed the extra point to make it only 16. And then I ended up having to sweat out that whole game until the very last drive where obviously Mac Jones threw the pass to it was like the 10-yard line and Buddy didn't get his feet in. But I'm definitely with you. I think that outgaining us, regardless whether we were up early or not, is not an encouraging sign for this defense. I think James Bradbury looked very suspect in the secondary. I think Reed Blankenship had some good plays at free safety, but also was a liability at certain points. The D-line's the D-line. We didn't get too much pressure on Mac. A guy like Hassan Reddick coming off the edge, one of the sack leaders last year in the NFL, really had no impact. And then my big thing is the linebackers. Our linebackers for the last 3 years, I've been saying, are subpar. They're good, but they're not difference makers. We don't have a Fred Warner or a Matt Milano or a Bobby Wagner. We don't have anybody like that. So if you're able to get matchups in the slot for guys like Jordan Addison or TJ Hawkinson, I think that they'll really be able to take advantage of our linebacking core, and especially in the red zone where guys like Hawkinson become a big body target and they're easy to hit. I think the Vikings will score points this week, and I'm basically gonna ride the over on the Thursday night until it hits, I think.
Hey, hopefully it's right now.
Yeah, let's just get it over with right now.
You just reminded me. I mentioned before, there's usually props up for Thursday night. I already have one locked in. TJ Hawkinson over 4.5 receptions, minus 115, got targeted 9 times against the Buccaneers, caught 8 of them for 35 yards.
Yeah,
8 catches for 35 yards. I said to myself, do I want to try and get fancy and take his receiving yards this week? Why would I?
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it seems like he's a safety blanket. They've got enough deep threat guys. He's the guy they're going to just throw it 5, 6, 7 yards to. Over 4.5 receptions. I'll be the biggest bozo of an overreaction if he gets like 1 or 2 this week. But he got nearly double the amount that he needs in this one. And I think he's going against, maybe a team. I shouldn't say a worse defense because the Eagles probably have a pretty good defense compared to the Bucks, but the Bucks kind of live and die by that. But you said something about worried about the Eagles, what they allow to the Patriots. But I also look at things, and I know it's sounds kind of simple, but I look at it the opposite about the offense. Both offenses just being pissed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like both offenses could be like, man, I don't like the game we just came out of, especially for the Vikings, like getting locked up the way they did. The body language on the bench, like nobody seemed happy with Kirk Cousins, and it's like week 1. I just feel like I almost like this over more than I would if, let's say, the Vikings won by 10 in week 1. And I know that sounds crazy to say because it's only week 2, but there's just that sense of urgency with like the play calling and things like that where they're going to be pissed. And I know it's only week 2.
They're going to need to get it right. And I just to lend you your 4.5. I think last year the Eagles were like bottom 5 in like yards allowed against tight ends. Yeah. So I think that, yards or receptions, I think TJ Hawkinson could probably have a day. I have a player
squad ride.
No.
You don't want it in just the over.
No, I actually have a player prop that's my best bet of the week. So I'm going to save that till the end. I think that was the format we did last week is we just saved the best bets till the end. So I do have a player prop for the game. It's my best bet of the week. And you're going to realize I'm probably never going to bet against the Eagles. I'm either going to be on the Eagles or some sort of player prop, team total, whatever, or I'm not going to bet it. So there's zero chance I'm going to be in with Hawkinson on you, even though I think it's a smart play and it makes sense. But we'll get you lead us off here with your first game of the 3.
All right, yeah. First game of my 3. I'm going to go Packers, Falcons under 40.5. Look, I'm the Packers guy. I love the Packers. I was impressed with what I saw in week 1. But I think to Jake's point that he mentioned, I was more impressed with the defense than the offense. Jordan Love is exciting to see him do well, look confident out there. The receivers played well, especially without Watson. But it's the defense that I think this team is going to be successful off of. If they have any success this year, it's going to be because they get key third down stops. And Aaron Jones got a little bit banged up, but I think at the end of the game, I think he will be fine. I think they're going to be a little more run dominant. And the Falcons, I know they played a weak opponent, but I think their defense is more respectable than many do. And 40.5 is a little bit of a low total, but I like the under. I expect a strong run game from both teams and a little bit less highlights from both as well. So as much as I'm pumped about the Packers' week 1 performance and the points they put up, I don't want to get too excited and feel like that's going to be a weekly thing. So I think defense and the run game is going to be kind of part of who they are this year. So under 40.5, Falcons, Packers.
Yeah, it just goes to show how much I don't like the slate that I also have this game.
Okay.
So me and Andrew, like we talked about, we're not going to talk
total,
about. Though? No, I'm not on the total. That total was too low for me, and there are too many variables. It could very well soar over, or it could go under by a mile. Yeah, so I think for me, I didn't really like what I saw out of Desmond Ridder and the Falcons offense, so I think that kind of lends into what you said about the under. Obviously, Bijan Robinson looked like a beast in the limited touches he got. Tyler Algier just, is showing why last year he was one of the best backs to end the season. He's a physical runner. I think Bijan and him are a little bit more similar than people think, but Bijan has a little bit more speed and kind of, we'll call it make you miss talent, where Algier's kind of, between the tackles. But I like them both as running backs. Drake London obviously didn't catch a ball. If Drake London's their number 1 wide receiver and he's not catching a ball and he's only getting targeted once, I think that's a recipe for disaster for them. Obviously, people are still extremely high on Kyle Pitts. I'm not extremely high on Kyle Pitts until he gets a quarterback. Desmond Ridder isn't it for me. So that lends into me taking the Packers, and it's overreaction.
You're switching it up. Let's go. Let's go.
It's overreaction week. I'm on the Packers -1.5 or -2. The line today I checked 3 different times and it moved 3 different times. So I think it's going to be one of those lines right up until kickoff that moves. I don't see it getting over 2.5. I think it'll definitely be within a field goal. But I think from what I saw with the Packers offense, Jordan Love looked really good. I don't expect him to have the same game, but having guys like Romeo Doubs perform, you have guys like, hi, Henry. For everybody, this is Henry the Golden.
His weekly appearance.
But yeah, I really like, come on, Henry, get down, buddy. Can't have you in the shot all day. But for me, I really like the Packers offense. I think Aaron Jones, if he's healthy, he can definitely have a role to play, even if it's limited. A.J. Dillon, Romeo Doubs. I even liked Musgrave. Musgrave made a really good pass, or a really good catch last week. And then, like you said, that defense. I talked about it quickly that I might have underestimated them. They got their guys back healthy. I think they run amok on Desmond Ridder. And regardless if it's a low-scoring game or not, I don't see the Falcons putting up too many points against that defense. And Jordan Love might not put up a lot of points against that Falcons defense either. But if I had to put my money on it right now on which defense I thought was going to perform, I'm going with the Packers all day. And again, it's overreaction week 2. I could very well be wrong. The Falcons could come out and, absolutely stomp the Packers. But like I said in our last video, that my season total for the Falcons was under 7.5. I don't think they're going to be that great of a team. So I think this week the Packers definitely take it. And I think they ended up taking it pretty comfortably.
I wouldn't mind a 20-13 Packers win.
Yeah,
I'll take that for the under.
Everybody wins here. And again, I think the Falcons, people were just a little too high on for me. And I think we're going to see the books maybe give them a little bit too much respect to start the season. And then as we get into the middle to the late part of the season, I think you're going to kind of see the line start to adjust itself where the books are like, all right, this team really isn't that good. And you're not gonna get these lines against teams like the Packers who look like they could be a decent team where it's -1.5, -2. Like if this was a mid-season game, Packers keep playing the way they're playing, and the Falcons start playing the way I think they're gonna play. They could easily be this could be a -4.5, -5.5 spread. So I think this is an opportunity where you jump all over the Packers and you ride the wave of Jordan Love in the defense.
And you talk about overreactions. Like, realistically, I think that overreactions come when a team loses against a good team. Like, I think that, or sorry, not loses, but like, when you look at, like, it's not like the Falcons upset a team or they even like competed in a tight one against a good, like, they defeated a team that they probably were expected to beat.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't really do anything that crazy. So I wouldn't say it's too much of an overreaction.
And they struggled too. That's the thing. Like, what did Ridder throw for like 115 yards? Like, obviously, I think he was like 15 for 18, which very accurate. But that just goes to show like they don't trust him to throw the ball if they're letting him throw it 18 times in a game. And if the Packers get up by a score or two to start the second half, like they're going to need him to throw the ball. And I just don't think that's a good recipe for the Falcons to win games this year.
And I don't want to be a hater, but I think it just that game to me showed me what I learned was that the Panthers are worse than I thought, not the Falcons are better than I thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Bryce Young had a good game. I think the defense had a decent game, a good game. Well, a good game, I guess, if you held the Falcons to, what was it, like 18 points or 20 points or something like that. So I think people had maybe a little bit more expectations for Carolina. So I definitely agree with you that maybe the Panthers weren't as good as we thought, and it was a little bit of an underperformance from the Falcons, because I know a lot of people have potentially the Falcons winning the division this year, which I don't really get, but I have heard quite a few people talk about, sleeper picks or people that, teams that you might not think that would win their division, and Falcons have been up there. But I think that's enough Packers talk. I'm getting sick to my stomach here.
You go with the next one.
Yeah. So my next pick, and again, I'm not a huge fan of the slate, but we had to pick some games. So for this pick, I am taking the Colts money line against the Texans. I think the spread right now is -2. When I checked this, it was -1. So the price might, change a little bit over the course of the week, depending on how the line moves. But I was a huge fan of what I saw out of Anthony Richardson. Cam Newton 2.0 to me. And I think he's a little bit quicker. I think I think he ran like a 4.45 or something like that in the combine. So the guy can move for how big he is. It was nice to see Michael Pittman get into the end zone, and they really played a strong game against a Jags team that was expected to go in there and just blow them out. Which obviously the game got a little out of hand towards the end, but I think that was because the Colts were chasing the game and they knew that they had a chance to get back in the game and wanted to. They weren't just going to roll over and die. But I don't think the Texans showed me too much against the Ravens. Their defense kind of I won't even say kept them in the game. I think that Lamar and Baltimore in the first half just underperformed greatly. And I don't want to. I'm not going
That's
to.
the biggest thing. It's always like, did they underperform or did the defense play well? It's hard to tell sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I think just for me, from what I saw, I think the Colts maybe will be a little bit better than everybody was expecting. Like the Colts have a pretty decent defense. Everybody knows about the Colts O-line, that it's usually one of the, it's in the top half of the league for O-lines. Still no Jonathan Taylor, which sucks for them, but I think they can definitely get it rolling with Anthony Richardson on the ground. And especially if they get, into the red zone and they get in that, we'll call it 1 to 5 yard range, I think he's just going to be automatic for touchdowns this year. So I think the Colts probably squeak one out. It's probably be a little bit closer than I'm giving it credit for, but that's a game that I think when I look at the slate, there's not too much I like. Usually like the crappy games, we'll call them, are easy to stay away from. I think this is a good opportunity to catch a team that's coming off a disappointing loss that looked good, to continue that into the next week against a team that didn't look good and isn't supposed to look good all year.
Hey, sometimes the dusty games make the most money.
Yeah.
You don't have to bet the best game of the week to make money. And I agree with you about the Colts. I think that, look, we're not talking about wins straight up. You know what I mean? Wins, loss. We're talking about covering point spreads. That's what the podcast is called We All Gamble. And I feel like the Colts are really going to throw people off guard. And speaking of gambling, everybody in the world seemed to have Richardson rushing prop over. We talked about it last week together about how it might take some time for the books to react to that. I feel like that's going to be a bet I'll look at next week. Unfortunately, I stayed off of it. We keep using the word overreaction, but you know what? That's the word going around in gambling. You hear it especially in college football. But I think this one here might be the overreaction pick of the week. I'm going to take the Seahawks +6 against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Detroit outright win against Kansas City. They play really well. I don't want to get on here and just keep ripping Kadarius Toney, but that game could have been different. I honestly wasn't even that impressed with Detroit. Like I thought they looked okay. They had some weapons. They definitely have more to offer, I think, than they did last year. They're going to catch people off guard. I think Goff played okay, but realistically, you look at this Seahawks team. They were the team that was caught off guard. They were the team that were supposed to blow out the Rams, and they didn't. I think you look at the entire slate last week, and you look at that Seahawks versus Rams game, and that was the one that I stayed off the most. Like every single parlay piece had the Seahawks. Everyone thought the Rams were going to suck. No Cooper Kupp. And all I'm seeing and all I'm hearing is people saying, man, the Seahawks played like trash. They didn't look good. Everyone should beat the Rams. And the good news is that's just 1 week, right? That's just 1 week. And now after a big performance for the Lions over the Chiefs, we're going to ask them to win by more than 6 points against a Seahawks team that I think have a great run game. Kenneth Walker, I thought, looked great on the ground. I think Geno Smith's a great game manager, and their defense is respectable. So asking the Lions to beat the Seahawks by 7 after the Seahawks just got embarrassed, I think is one of my favorite plays here this week. So I'll take the Seahawks +6 against the Lions.
Man, it's pretty crazy that we haven't talked at all so far about what picks we're taking.
Same pick, or
just on the same game?
Same game. Okay.
I actually stayed off the side in this one. My reason being is, like you said, the Seahawks definitely disappointed. It definitely feels like a bounce back spot. I know for the avid gambler out there, people who gamble quite frequently, that's something that you genuinely look for, is like a bounce back spot. Where's a spot where I can catch a team that maybe Vegas is underestimating based off the week before, the game before, a couple games before, whatever it may be. So I definitely think the Lions to beat them by a touchdown is a little bit of a stretch. But I think also like the Lions offense really wasn't clicking too well. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown was like the only guy that really had it going. For some reason, they decided that they wanted Jahmyr Gibbs to watch his first game, which when Dan Campbell said that, I was like, I get it, but that's also like one of the dumbest things I think a coach could say. Like, why wouldn't you want your player to get game reps, experience, be in there in the moment? So when that particular moment comes up again in the season, he's not like, oh yeah, I was watching it on the sideline. Like, this is what I should do instead of being in the game and like, this is what I know I can do and can't do.
Yeah.
So I think too, the Lions offense could definitely bounce back. I think Jared Goff, after the year he had last year, looked extremely disappointing against a KC defense that's notoriously the weak spot on their team. No Chris Jones. So for me, I really like the over in this game, the over 47.5. I know we just got done talking about the lack of offense kind of both teams showed, but I think it's a bounce back spot for the Seahawks where Geno, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Kenneth Walker are really going to trying to get it going, get in rhythm again with each other. Because Geno was one of, I'll put him in one of like the top 7 quarterbacks last year. I think he was definitely the biggest surprise last year. I think he has all the abilities to be more than a game manager. I think that's how he was used a lot throughout his career as, we don't trust him. Don't put the ball in his hands unless we absolutely have to. And we kind of saw last year that, if you let him, make plays and throw the ball downfield to guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, he can make plays and they could have a really explosive offense. I think both teams' defenses going into the year were slightly overrated. I think everybody saw the secondary for Seattle last year and was like, oh my goodness, like this might be the reincarnation of the Legion of Boom. I don't really think that's what we're going to get out of the Seahawks defense again this year. And a lot of people, especially at work that I was talking to, we have a lot of gamblers at work and a lot of football heads. The one thing that I kept hearing, which made no sense to me, was, wow, the Lions defense looked really good. It's like, yeah, the Lions defense looked good, but against who? Yeah. Like, you have Rashid Rice, who was a rookie, Kadarius Toney, like,
It's hard, right? Because you can't tell.
Kelsey, like,
yeah,
they lost Juju Smith-Schuster. They lost Mecole Hardman. Their wide receiver core is just a bunch of unproven guys. And then you take out Travis Kelce out of the equation. Who's Mahomes supposed to throw to? Who are the guys that are game breakers and that are going to make a difference? Valdez-Scantling? Like, there wasn't much there. I think it was easy for the Lions to know what was going to happen, especially when the Chiefs kind of abandoned running the ball. Like, I think we were actually here talking about it. We were like, man, Isaiah Pacheco is running angry. Like, he looks like he's ready this year. And then in the second half, they just kind of stopped handing him the ball. So for me, I think the Lions defense was slightly overrated after last game. I think Jared Goff's going to come out, try to have a better game. I think they have the weapons. I really like Sam Laporta, the tight end. I think
played well.
Yeah, he played well for the limited targets he got. He was another guy where I was like, you should use him more, although he's a rookie. Him and Jahmyr Gibbs both look good. Ahmed-Ra St. Brown. I think this game has the potential to put up points, and I think it honestly could go over by quite a bit. I think this could be a week 2's version of the Chargers and Dolphins, where both teams have exciting offenses and their offenses are better than their counterparts' defense.
And nobody wants to hear about someone complain about their fantasy team, but I had Lockett and he had pretty much a donut for me. And if you get even a little bit better than that, like they've got 2 guys that can stretch the field. And I think it's a good mix of like going from Geno being a game manager, but then if he slips in a long pass, then it keeps the defense guessing, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I like your take. I mean, it is kind of funny, like you said, that we literally have. I'm happy that neither of us have been head to head so far, or even we haven't had the same pick so far. It's just been like one person side, one person total. But I get it, and I really feel like the Lions defense didn't look that good. KC looked bad offensively. But here's the thing: like realistically, I think you can make an opinion on both those things. Like I don't think anybody is wrong. Like if someone said they looked good, they did. They're not lying.
Yeah.
But why do they look good?
Yeah.
That's the question you ask. Why did somebody look good? Because based on what they're saying, they should bet the under this week.
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
What I mean?
And I think they're 2 teams that, again, like people have high expectations for them. Like there's plenty of people that I've heard and know that have talked about, hey, like if you want to look at a team in the NFC that's not the Niners or the Eagles, Seattle's it. Like Seattle's a dark horse to win the NFC, maybe go to the Super Bowl if they get it together. So I think that Seattle has the pieces to put up points. Like you said, Kenneth Walker looked really good. Zach Charbonnet, I'm not sold on, but they have another back there to come in and switch things up. And then for the Lions, again, like they have weapons as well. So for me, like this is kind of like a no-brainer last week. Like when I was talking to you about the Dolphins and the Chargers, it was like there's just games where you look at the total and you're like, that's going over. Like I don't care what happens. I don't care who's playing. That total's going over. So I'm if I wasn't going to take my best bet of the week, which I'll give at the end in the Eagles-Vikings game, I think on the slate that I'm not very confident in, this would be my best bet.
I'm gonna make it really quick for my last pick of kind of our quick picks here. It's kind of like another similar scenario, I guess, but the Giants got destroyed. The Giants got wrecked. Everyone's talking about them this week. Will they bounce back? Are they a survivor pick? They're laying 5.5 against the Cardinals. The Cardinals lost kind of a close-ish one to the Commanders. Commanders end up taking that late in the fourth quarter and not looking back. But 1 week, you look like really, really bad. The next week, you can kind of bounce back and you're playing a really bad team. I always look for scheduling spots like this. I know it sounds funny saying that. It's only week 2, but the Cowboys are a good team offensively. They have lots of firepower. Pollard looked great, by the way. And obviously that defense is unbelievable too. But the Giants, it's not like they get absolutely destroyed and then their next game is also against a really good team, right? They're going against a team that had like a 4.5 or 5.5 season win total now in an effort to bounce back. So I think it'd be really easy for everybody in the world to be like, yep, Giants bounce back, -5.5, best bet of the year. I'm going to look at it differently and take the Cardinals team total under 16.5. Forget what the Giants are going to do offensively. I'm going to kind of be the contrarian and say they just gave up 40 plus to the Cowboys. What they're going to work on in practice is shutting down the Cardinals. And I feel like Commanders have a pretty good defense, but the Giants, I actually think their defense will get going against a team like that. And asking them to get 17, 18 points, depending on where you're shopping around, I still think is a lot, especially when you're coming across a team that's really pissed off. Here's the thing. The Giants are going to try and run the ball a lot. I don't really trust Daniel Jones to go deep. I don't think the coaching staff probably does either. But when you go down 3 touchdowns, any game plan you had is out the window, right? So, like, I feel like people will, if there's ever going to be an overreaction, more than I think the last game I said, it's that one.
Yeah, so. I think personally the Giants are a bounce back. I actually really, really, really looked at them -5.5. I think the Cardinals, you come out week 1, you have a lot of doubters and haters and people are saying you guys are going to suck. You got no Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins leaves. There's a lot to kind of get up and play for in the first game of the season to try and prove people wrong. But I think we definitely see a regression spot here out of Arizona. I actually really like that pick. I think Josh Dobbs is Josh Dobbs. I think he might be the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now, which is no disrespect to him, but like just he's a career backup or third stringer, right? So there's a reason that, he got shipped out to Arizona. Obviously, they didn't need him. So I think that's a really good spot. But I think, like you said, everything you said, the Giants bounced back. They got 40 hung on their head. That defense actually is a pretty good defense. Like, it's not the best defense, but I think, they're a 10 to 15 kind of ranking defense where they'll have their games where they'll put up numbers and they'll definitely keep offenses in check. And then you'll have spots like the Cowboys where I think that might have been one of the worst beatdowns I've ever seen. So we probably won't see that again from them this year, but I think you'll see offenses put up points against them. And like you said, with Daniel Jones, I think Daniel Jones is a game manager. They want him to evolve into something else, but I don't think he will. But I think they have the pieces on offense to cover that spread. But if I was betting that game, I wouldn't have thought of the team total under for the Cardinals. But that's definitely a pick now that like we're kind of going through it where I'm like, I actually really like that.
Let's go. I appreciate it. And let me ask you, I'm curious what everybody else has to say about this too. Like, comment below, let us know. How much do you rate like a 20-point, 25, 30, 35-point blowout? Realistically, what's the difference in your head between a 21-point blowout and a 35, right? For me, it's not a lot. It's not a lot at all because I just talked about how the game plan goes out the window. You got to try different things. I'm the kind of guy, especially point spread wise, if I see a team getting absolutely demolished, and I've been trying to convince the boys forever because we all bet every weekend, and you're starting to do it now more, like checking it with me and early in the week. Like, I'm almost hoping that they keep running it up because you're going to get a better point spread or you're going to see more movement throughout the week. And I know in NFL there isn't a shit ton of movement, but I almost just want them to keep getting blown out more because I really don't care if it's 30, 40 points or if it's 20 points. To me, it's just a blowout.
Yeah, I think for me, it's more so along the lines of, and I think you'll probably have a similar opinion, is how the blowout occurs. Like, to me, I think the blowout between obviously Dallas and New York, to me, that said a lot more about Dallas than it did about New York. I think as a Cowboy hater, I was like, damn, like Cowboys might actually be all right this year. Like, if Dak can keep.
That's without Dak doing a thing, really.
Yeah, and I think that's the other reason that might have lent to the blowout is, we didn't see Dak in those pressure situations where he tends to make mistakes. And that's I'm not trying to, obviously it's funny, but I'm not trying to be funny. I genuinely think Dak.
Maybe they didn't have a chance to make a mistake.
Exactly, right? The defense didn't allow Dak to get in a spot where he could cost them the game. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think it's not so much how much you get blown out by, it's in what manner. And I think that defense, is a top 5 defense in the NFL. I think the Cowboys have a lot of really good pieces on the defense. So I'm completely with you. I think it's just the manner of how you get blown out, not so much what the score was. But I guess I have my last pick here. Or was that? Oh no, that was 3 for me. Sorry. So I guess we'll jump into the Sunday nighter here, and I absolutely hate this game. I can't believe that I'm having to bet on this game because I know I'm going to be wrong. But it's Dolphins Patriots. I took the Dolphins -2.5. I don't love it. After what I saw last week out of Mac Jones, I was actually impressed. I think all the boys know that I'm a huge Mac Jones hater. I think Patriots fans have a little bit of a delusion around Mac Jones and what he can become. A lot of the boys talk about I give him some time, he could be Brady. No, he's not. But I really like the offense that Bill O'Brien ran with Mac Jones. The pieces that they have don't jump off the page, but they all performed really well. I think Kendrick Bourne looked really good. Schuster came up in spots when he needed to come up in. And then you have Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke. And I think if they can run the ball, they really put the power back onus on Zeke. And surprisingly, they used him a lot more as a receiver than I've ever seen Dallas use him as. I know when Pollard came into the league, all of a sudden Zeke's receiving role kind of diminished. And we're kind of starting to see it come back with the Patriots. I don't know if that was just a week 1 game script where maybe they thought the Eagles wouldn't be expecting that. But I really like what they have going. But it's hard to bet against what we saw last week for the Dolphins. Tua looked unbelievable. I don't know if you saw the odds drop on his MVP.
No, I didn't see that.
Really?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
No. Yeah, so BR put out. I don't know what book it was for. I didn't really dive into it too much, but on a given book, Tua is now tied with Patrick Mahomes for the favorite for the MVP.
Wow.
So that's some crazy line movement on that. But I think with the weapons that the Dolphins had, Tyreek looked like an absolute menace. He put up 200+ yards, 2 touchdowns, I believe. He looked unbelievable. Jalen Waddle's doing Jalen Waddle things. He's going to be a very good complementary receiver to Hill. When they decide to, double team Hill, you'll be able just to dump it down or catch those short to intermediate routes with Waddle. And if Tua can stay healthy, he looks really good. And I think surprise of the week, I think in terms of fantasy football, which we're not going to talk too much about, is Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert, I think he's one of those guys that he's going to give you 4 to 6 games of being really good before he gets hurt. It happens every year. So for me, I took this spot. I really am going to ride the wave of what I saw last week, but I know how the Dolphins struggle against the Patriots in Foxborough. So that was kind of my, I don't know if I really like this or not. But my other pick, too, is the Dolphins team total over 23.5. Everything I saw last week against the Chargers, and just like I just mentioned, just kind of lended into that pick. I think that's a little bit more of a safe pick, I'll say. I think that the Dolphins could definitely put up 24 points against the Patriots, but I don't know if they'll win or not.
I'm on under 23.5 in the first half. Obviously both teams. I look at this game and I feel like look at the Patriots. I talked about game script, like what happened with the Giants. When things get out of hand, I think that's when overs start to hit against the Patriots. but I feel like a lot of first half unders are going to hit for them. Even if some games full game go over, I think we're going to see first halves go under in those games because they're going to do everything they possibly can to keep games. I don't care they got an OC finally. I don't care that Mac Jones was able to make some passes against the Eagles. I still feel like the Patriots are the Patriots, and they do not see the difference between winning a game 30-27 to 13-10. They don't see a difference. And as much as you talked about Mostert there, I was really impressed with Waddle and Reek and stuff like that, but there really wasn't much of a run game for the Dolphins, but they didn't have to be.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have to be, so I can't really smack talk it, but I think if the Patriots can apply pressure and take away some of the passing game for Tua, maybe they'll be forced to run the ball a little bit, which also takes away from points. I'm looking at an early game kind of snooze fest, and then maybe the second half can pick up.
Yeah, I think
23.5, man, for a Patriots game in the first half. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And I think too, if the Patriots want to be successful in this game, Bill's gonna have to dive like real deep into his like repertoire for like schemes to scheme up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think if you scheme against Hill, you're just asking for Waddle to have a really good day. And if you don't scheme against either of them, they're both gonna have a monster day. So I'm with you on that team total. I think if that team total,
Both teams.
yeah. Sorry, both teams. The first half under. I think if it does hit though, I think it's maybe the lack of offense from the Patriots. I think
For sure.
it could be a spot where, we've talked about it like 6 times already, how great the Patriots offense looked against a really stout Eagles defense. And this could be a letdown spot for them where.
Were they down 10 though? Weren't they like down 10 or 13?
They were down 16.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? They looked good when they had to throw the ball, right? That's why I'm taking only the first half.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think this game, I could see anything happen in this game. Again, I don't really love the slate this week, but we got to give you guys picks and we got to give our best picks. So this is one I think where Andrew identified a spot where it's like, hey, this might not be something that, we'll call it like beginner or intermediate gambler would look at. But I think as somebody who's been in the industry for a long time, that's a spot where you look at something where you're looking much more like microscopic and trying to figure out something that makes sense to you and kind of aligns with your vision of the game. So I'm definitely with you on that one.
Next up,
Saints Panthers. I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to go first. I absolutely hate this game. This is probably the least favorite game I've had on my card. It's prime time Monday, so there's 2 Monday nighters. First of all, before we get into the games, why is the NFL booking 2 Monday night games and kickoffs only an hour apart?
Yeah, there's no stagger really.
That's awful. That's like a football fan's like worst nightmare. Unless you have like a 2 TV setup or a laptop TV setup. That's poor planning by the NFL. I really don't like that. You're basically making me
have 2 TVs.
Yeah, well, even if I do have the ability to do that, but it's like I can't pay attention fully to a game. I'm gonna have to kind of be here and be there and be here and then here. But yeah, I just before we get started, I noticed that because I know normally when the NFL last year was doing the 2 Monday nighters, they tried to make it so that it was an East Coast team was the early game and then the West Coast was the late game, and obviously those games go a little bit later. But it's like at least if I want to watch both, I'm not divvying up my attention.
I agree with you. It's weird. Hopefully, at least it at least kind of works out that the first game's in halftime.
Yeah.
One game is starting, but it won't work out that way.
No, it never
It's
works
not
out
gonna
like
work
that. You
out
never
like
get that planning. But for me, I think this is I don't love this pick. And the reason I don't like it is because a lot of the games that I've bet on the spread or money line this week, it's been road teams.
Hey, road teams dominated week 1.
They did dominate week 1, and I'm always worried about following that trend into next week. But you also don't want to be the guy that's like, I know more than what's right in front of me, and you're trying to,
go against it.
Yeah, go against it and try and think you're smarter than what's right in front of your face.
Some guy I work with, he always says, "Don't catch a falling knife."
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's a funny saying, but Makes sense.
It makes sense. So I'm on the Saints -3. I think they were super disappointing. I think Derek Carr was super disappointing last week. They have the ability to have a really good offense. I think Chris Olave is really good. Shaheed, the rookie that they drafted this year, had a monster game last week. And Jamal Williams, they really didn't use too well. I think he's a guy that they could really get going and give them much more of a power back than Alvin Kamara will be when he comes back. The Saints defense is, I think it's lost its allure. I think last year and the year previous and the year previous to that, it didn't really matter who was at QB. A lot of the Saints fans hung their hat on their defense. I think their defense is still good, but I don't think it's great. So that's the only part that scares me about taking this pick. But again, we're going against Carolina, rookie QB. They don't have a lot of weapons, and their defense is also hearsay. Some people are really bought into it, other people not so much. But that's my pick for this game. Again, I don't love it too much, but I think I just got to roll with who's the better team and not try and psych myself out of what I know.
Yeah, like honestly, I looked at this game. I didn't know for sure we were going to do both. Like obviously, I was kind of thinking this is the one out of all the games I would have said anything about all day. I mean, you could lend me money. I wouldn't make a bet on this game. You know what I mean? Like somebody could like give me a free bet on this game, and I'd be like, nah, I'm good. Yeah. It's one of those ones. But what's the current number? 2.5? Is it 3 even or 3.5?
So when I did my picks, at like 6:00 our time. So it was 3, but it might have moved. The score is pretty up to date. So if it moved on the score, it definitely moved.
Like what I was kind of thinking is the Broncos are -3.5 this week, right? I was thinking, I know you're going to laugh because I love teasers. A good teaser spot would be Commanders up 6, get them to 9 and get them to 9.5, and then you take the Panthers up to 9.5.
To 9.5.
So like I know that you said you're on the Saints and stuff like that, but I feel like I don't think either of those games get out of hand. So with that being said, I don't have anything else besides that. But also, I want to mention something. I know people, maybe you're not going to get into teasers because of me. I'm mad at something I did, and I want to just vent about it. The Jets yesterday, everybody knew it was going to be bad weather. I ended up betting Bills first half money line, which worked out great. You and I both won our bets. You had the Jets, but you can tie in. It's a really cool thing sometimes because primetime games usually have close spreads. They try and work that out, right? Like 2.5, 3.5, around that ballpark, right?
Yeah, you don't see anything like too crazy. Like I think for like Thursday prime time, like the Eagles being, 7-point favorites is a little crazy.
Yeah. A lot of people I know either had teasers to close out on the Jets plus because they're a +2.5, right? Or you can actually, the lines are already available for the next week, right? So I know a lot of people that started off teasers with Jets, take them from +2.5, get them to +8.5, and then find somebody else in week 2 to pair them up with. And all of a sudden, you finished off week 1 and you have another team that you can boost up. So it's something worth doing on Monday nights. I want to start doing it more because Monday nights often have close games. They're just close games that suck. Like they're just low scoring and boring. If you can get a 2.5 on a Monday, don't forget, you can actually combo that with a game from the next week. So
yeah, especially if they're divisional games too. I think the divisional games on prime time are always close, and they're close. They're normally close in general, but I think too, like you've mentioned, like you were a big guy last week on divisional games and unders. I think too, like divisional games and on the spread, you can really catch some good spots, or maybe the numbers, like you said, maybe 3.5, and the game ends up being a 1-point game, a 2-point game.
Yeah. And even if the favorite covers and if you're teasing that +3.5 up to 9.5, that's a lot of points to win by.
Yeah, it's definitely. I actually like that a lot. Maybe we'll try that this week. We'll check in on the Monday nighter and see if we can tease that up, and then maybe check out somebody for week 3 that we like a little bit more.
So I'll go official. Commanders +9.5, Panthers +9.5.
I love it. So the last game of the week,
What do you got for me?
I like this one too, but it's another friggin' road team, man. I hate seeing that, but we got the Browns at Steelers. Browns -2, man. I don't really understand why the spread's this close, and that kind of lends to me maybe thinking it's a trap line. I think maybe Vegas knows something that I don't know, which is often the case when I bet a line like this and it goes the complete opposite way. But just checking, yeah, it's fishy. And just checking that offense last week, like from the Steelers, it was like Kenny looked awful. Najee had nothing going. Deontay Johnson really messed up his hamstring, so he's going to be out this week. George Pickens, we really didn't get the usage out of him that we thought we might get with Kenny Pickett. And then the defense just got absolutely hammered by San Francisco. San Francisco just walked through that defense, and Steelers are notoriously built on having a strong defense regardless of who's at quarterback or who's available at wide receiver. So I think this week for me, it's like I saw the Browns, I saw that defense and what it did to Joe Burrow. It was the first time I saw Joe Burrow, and I was like, and it's definitely an overreaction, but man, maybe Joe isn't what Mahomes is. I know, like, for a while we talked about...
That's 1 week.
I know, it's 1 week, but, like, he looked lost out there. And it wasn't like they were missing guys. Like, he definitely missed time, and I think he was out of rhythm.
He definitely isn't 100%.
No, he's definitely not, but that's just how good I thought the Browns' defense looked. I was like... Going into the year, I think I said in our last week, I was like, man, the Browns defense looks like, I think it's on paper, it's really good. But last week, like, I was like, holy crap. Like this,
that's why I had the under.
Yeah. Like this defense could really be a top 3 defense in the NFL with all of the pieces they have. And then I think Deshaun Watson didn't look great last week, but he managed the game like we talked about.
Did what he had to do.
Did what he had to do. And then you have guys like Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Nick Chubb who are able to produce at a somewhat moderate level to make Deshaun look better than he might actually be. So for me, I think it's either a trap line and I'm going to look stupid, or Vegas.
Get ready for this. It's going to either be you're going to look like a genius, or
I know, and I felt like a genius last week when the Browns were plus money on the money line at home. I was like, Joe hasn't played all week. Like, this is Vegas giving away money.
Yeah.
But again, it's like, am I overreacting to the Browns' first week performance? Am I maybe undervaluing what San Francisco has and how ordinary they were able to make the Steelers look? But again, it's just one of those lines where I feel like it's too good to pass up, and I would rather lose on a line like this than bet on something like completely ridiculous that I like, like Chargers and Titans, where I have no idea what the hell's going to happen in that game.
I couldn't remember, but just based off the line, I knew for a fact that game was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I just wanted to double check so I don't look like a complete idiot, but I pretty much knew 99%. Like, and it's an interesting topic of conversation. Just, I know we're kind of running long, but it's about how the road teams dominated last week. Everybody I talk to and like really respect their opinions, like people say that they're in like their power rankings taking less and less and less towards home field, like way less. So to your benefit, maybe the bookmakers are still taking into account home field where maybe they shouldn't be. So I feel like that division is going to be fun to watch, though. Like every game when it's like divisional matchup, in that division is going to be really fun to watch. But I agree with you. I think that one's too tight. I think that two things can happen at the same time. The Steelers can look better and the Browns can still win by more than a handful of points. I think both those things can happen at once. I'm curious at the end of the year what the record will be with divisional unders in that division. However, I might catch you off guard. I'm taking the over.
Damn.
Over 39.5.
That's pretty crazy.
Look what San Francisco did. You know what I mean? San Francisco, first of all, walked all over Steelers. And I understand they have a great defense. Or excuse me, they have a great offense and a lot of different guys. But let's not also forget that San Fran is a favorite to win the whole thing. Like a Super Bowl favorite. They're not just good on one side of the ball. They're good on both sides.
Yeah, I think they have like the second or third best odds.
Yeah.
So they're definitely a favorite.
Their defense made things look awful. They had me saying things about Kenny Pickett I shouldn't even be saying. You know what I mean? And like that's the difference between like being someone saying stuff while you're watching a game and then having time to reflect and then doing our podcast together. Where I was like, man, I hate Kenny Pickett. I'll never bet on this guy again. Deontay Johnson being out sucks, but I saw some bright spots and they aren't going up against the Niners defense. I know you just dapped them up, but 39.5, I'll take the over, man.
Yeah, I think that number is extremely low. I actually was talking to a guy at work today. He was kind of harping on the, divisional unders, like, we've talked about quite a bit so far through the first 2 weeks. And he was like, I don't care how bad we looked. He's a Steelers fan. He's like, I don't care how bad we looked. I don't really care how good the Browns looked. When anybody comes to Pittsburgh in a divisional game, it's going to be a 3-point or less game in his opinion. Obviously there's some extenuating circumstances where that isn't the case, but he was very adamant that it's going to be a close game, that he doesn't think that there's going to be a lot of scoring. And I kind of saw it the opposite way. I was like, you know what? Like, I think that the Browns offense, the more they play together, the more they're going to start to click. And people forget, like, Deshaun only played like 6 games last year.
Exactly, man. People are roasting this guy. He had his first training camp in what feels like forever.
2 years.
Yeah. I don't understand. And the thing is, when you have a guy like Nick Chubb, you give a quarterback like him the opportunity to ease his way in. There's no pressure right out the gate.
And I think too, there's a lot of it's not really recency bias. I guess people forget, like, when he was in Houston, there was no run game. Like, it was Lamar Miller who was like, he's serviceable, but he's not Nick Chubb. Like, you're used to having to watch Deshaun gunsling, run his ass off to keep the Texans in every game. He doesn't have to do that at Cleveland. He just can't turn the ball over. Amari's going to make plays. Elijah Moore is going to make plays. David Njoku's going to make plays. Nick Chubb's going to make plays. Like, you just need to give yourself a chance to win every game and know that your defense realistically probably isn't going to get blown out in any game. And at that point, it's like, okay, we don't need that old Deshaun. We need smart Deshaun who's going to make plays, put points on the board, and just not turn the football over. And I think they're going to be a good team. And to your point of, Pittsburgh playing against San Francisco's defense versus Cleveland's defense this week, both are really good defense, but I'm on board. There's definitely levels to this. Like, there's definitely
That's
levels.
not me disrespecting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's levels. Like, you both can be top 5 defenses, but number 1 could look a million times better than number 5 just based off of how they've played. And I think, San Francisco's defense is going to be 1 or 2 this year, depending on how I think like the Cowboys or the Eagles perform in on defense. But I'm with you. I actually really do like that over. I think Kenny Pickett and the Steelers are going to try to come out and find ways to put points on the board, whether that's scheming George Pickens in a little bit more, or maybe that's getting Jaylen Warren a little bit more involved as a pass catching back. I can't see Mike Tomlin coming out again, especially at home, and just letting them get beat down again, and just not put any fight into it. Mm-hmm.
And they weren't good on third down. Like, they got dominated themselves on third down. The Niners converted like every time. But third down conversion is something I told myself I'm going to look at a lot this year. And obviously this is kind of me hoping something's different. And a lot of it's me hoping that the Niners defense is what prevented them from doing well. But we covered a lot of games, man.
Yeah,
we
got 6 games, and I got my best bet here. I saved it to the end. I don't know what your best bet was, but or if you've even given it yet. You might have given it and just not said anything.
I got one.
But my best bet of the week is in the Thursday Nighter, and it's going to be Kenneth Gainwell anytime. Touchdown score, plus 130. I think I was very surprised that he was utilized the way he was utilized against the Patriots. If they're going to use him more as a runner this year and mix in that pass attack, I think he's very liable to get in the end zone any given week. I think I was a little surprised with the lack of use of DeAndre Swift. They ended up scratching Rashad Penny, and I don't think Boston Scott is going to be used like he was last year. So if you're gonna take an Eagles running back, I think you're gonna go with the guy that's had the most usage and is the most diverse. I think Hurts didn't really use Gainwell's receiving abilities as well as he could have in that game. And the Eagles kind of schemed him more as a runner, and he had some big runs for first downs, or it was 3rd and 3, and you see little Kenneth Gainwell in there, and you're like, oh, it's definitely not a run, and he's able to kind of scurry his way to the first down marker and get that. So I think if they get in the red zone, and you don't really want to put Jalen Hurts in trouble that much this year, where he's liable to take hits close to the goal line, you turn around and hand it off, and I want to go with the guy that had the most touches and looked the best out of the running back. So I think Kenneth Gainwell plus 130 is a smart play if you're going to take an Eagles running back. And I also think too, like we talked about Devonta Smith in my same game parlay, I think teams are going to be double teaming the hell out of AJ Brown this year. And I think Skinny Batman has the potential to lead the team in yards and touchdowns this year. So that's another guy. But I'm locking in Kenneth Gainwell, a little bit, slightly more value. And I think the Eagles are going to look to try and get their running backs a little bit more involved this week.
I like him, man. That caught me off guard. Anytime touchdown score, and don't have to wait much time for that one. First game of the week, Thursday Night Football, Gainwell. He can take a hit too, man.
Oh, yeah.
You don't got to worry about that guy fumbling. He'll take a hit. He'll get in the end zone for you. And I think it's a good point you raised about Hurts. Like, he's a good fantasy guy. He's a good guy that, obviously great arm, but he runs, gets touchdowns, but they can't have him being the guy every time.
Yeah, and I think game one of the NFL season proved it. How many times were we watching and where he would drop the shoulder last year and try and run somebody over? He was just giving himself up, whether it was, for negative yards or a first down. Like, he was just like, I think Philly's coaching staff has made a concerted effort this year to tell him, we need you to not take as many hits. And I think you're really going to see that down in the red zone. I think you're going to see them turn around and hand the ball off more. You're still going to see those QB reads and those QB sneaks where he's not really at risk to take an open field hit. But I think you're going to see a lot more in the red zone this year. They're going to turn around and hand the ball off instead of that QB option and run the risk of Hurts, getting blown up or just take an unnecessary punishment that he doesn't really need to take.
No need for it. All right. My best bet, I'll be really quick. I'm going to take a team where the point spread has changed quite a bit from what it would have been last week. Looking ahead, look-ahead lines. I am going to take the Jets plus 9.5 against the Cowboys. Cowboys went crazy against the Giants. This is the typical game where pretty much walk into a room, tell your buddies you're taking the Jets this week, they're going to laugh at you, right? This is a point spread, not straight up. You're getting 9.5 points of the team that has a great defense. Jeez, I can't get the pick out. Maybe that's a bad idea. Great defense.
Telling you something.
All kinds of still great weapons. I still don't even think Wilson was utilized the way he should be. That's Garrett Wilson, not Zach. Zach will be really eased in. Hall looked great in the running game. I'm mad I didn't take his props last week, but I was concerned about his health. Looks healthy to me. And realistically, you got a Dallas team, people will overreact. You got Aaron Rodgers being out, people will overreact to that. I think one of the best bets of the week that people should get on now is the Jets plus 9.5 on the highway against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add to that. That was I thought mine was left field. Yours is like, holy crap, dude. I did not see that one coming at all, especially after what we saw from Zach Wilson. But hey, like you said, teams might be overvaluing the Cowboys and undervaluing the Jets this week. So I'll probably ride it with you, to be honest, and just see what happens. But don't
you agree though? This is going to be the one where people tell someone they're betting this, they're going to get laughed at.
Oh yeah, this is a bet that you don't even really need to tell your friends. Like if you want them to make money, then yeah. But this could, to me, that's a bet where you just lock that in, and when everybody's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe the Jets cover the spread," you just show them the bet slip and be like, "Yeah, I was on it on Tuesday or Wednesday. Like, yeah. I didn't want this line to move." But to recap, just before we get out of here, I'll run down my full slate and we'll call it a week. The episode went a little bit longer. I think the more we get talking, the more we're like, all right, let's just keep talking. But we'll try and cut it down. We're trying to get the episodes in and around like 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. So we'll
do less recap because we'll recap in our games. That's what we got to do. And that's my bad for starting it, and then we just kept going together.
Yeah, everybody's excited about football, so we're still anything and everything that we can talk about, we're going to talk about. But just to get it going here, over 48 in the Eagles-Vikings game. My best bet of the week, Kenneth Gainwell, anytime, plus 130. Packers minus 1.5 or minus 2, depending on how the line moves. It's moved quite a bit so far. Colts money line, over 47.5 in the Seahawks-Lions game. Dolphins-Pats, I got minus 2.5 for the Dolphins. Team total, over 23.5 for the Dolphins. Saints-Panthers, I'm going Saints minus 3. And then Browns-Steelers, I'm going Browns minus 2. Every pick I have involves some sort of road team doing something for me and needing something out of them. So hopefully the road dogs, not even dogs, the road favorites. A lot of them are favorites. The road favorites come through for me.
Hey, hope they keep going, man. I'd always rather ride a streak than go against it. So we got a lot of picks, all right? If you don't like all these picks, that's fine. But if you don't think we gave enough picks, I have a 1-800 number for you. because that's a lot of picks we're giving. We're giving a lot of picks each, primetime games. So
1-800-GET-HELP.
I've got Falcons, Packers under 40.5, Seahawks +6, Cardinals team total under 16.5 against the Giants, over 48.5, Vikings, Eagles, under 23.5, first half, Dolphins and Patriots, Browns, Steelers over 39.5, Panthers +3.5, teased up to 9.5 with the Commanders 9.5. Best bet of the week, we got the Jets +9.5. Don't worry about Zach Wilson. He'll be fine against the Dallas Cowboys. That's all for me, Jake.
Yeah, so for Jake and Andrew here on the We All Gamble podcast, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, YouTube, Amazon, what is it, Amazon Podcast? What is it?
Yeah.
Amazon Podcast, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I think we're still on Apple Music as well. So Apple Music as well, wherever you get your podcast needs. Make sure you're leaving comments too. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, some of your picks. And who knows, if we get some traction and there's some people commenting with good picks, we could start giving you guys a shout out. Hey, Joe Blow gave us this pick. We didn't talk about this game. What a great pick. And we can kind of get the ball rolling. I think for me and Andrew, we both just kind of want to have some engagement, have some people give us picks, what they like, what they don't like. And we can, hopefully shut some people up, or some people can shut us up and be like, hey, you guys are wrong or we're right. But for week 2 from the We All Gamble podcast, I'm Jacob. This is Andrew. Look forward to talking to you next week.